Our sponsors for this episode are Hall's Tree Service. Locally owned and operated, Hall's Tree Service has been exceeding and surpassing customer demands in Newton and the surrounding area for over 40 years. Larry and his crew are guaranteed to work hard for you. There's no tree too tall, no job too small. Call Hall's at 316-772-1919. Absolute drain. Look, no one, and I mean no one, likes it when their sink, bathtub, washing machine, or especially their toilets start backing up. It's even worse when they won't drain or flush at all. No matter who you are, it happens to us all. If this is happening to you, then you need to give Garth with Absolute Drain a call. Absolute Drain is located at 420 West Broadway in Newton and has been faithfully serving Newton and surrounding areas for longer than I can even remember. I personally use Absolute Drain, and they have kept my pipes cleaned out and flowing day one. It might just be time for you to give them a call too at 316-283-7264. The Newton Kansan is Newton's longest-running local newspaper covering all the stories, people, places, and things happening in our community. Chad Fry, the Kansan guy, editor of the Kansan, works diligently to ensure integrity, accuracy, and unbiased news is delivered to your doorstep 3 times a week for an unbeatable price. You can also sign up for online-only access for around $7 a month. That's 12 online papers a month for only $7. If you've not subscribed, it's time you do. Visit them in their office at 517 North Main Street. That's 517 North Main Street in Newton. Online at thekansan.com. That's thekansan.com. Or give them a call at 316-283-1500. That's 316-283-1500. Support local journalism, support the Kansan. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this HCTalk podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley, and I gotta say, Andy, you are my co-partner in crime, my brother from another mother, and we probably are going to spread quite a bit of hate and discontent based upon how you view it.
Half
because
the people will be upset, and half the people will agree.
Agreed. And then, hopefully, and I say this over and over and over again, the whole idea with this podcast is to inform, educate, and entertain. Does not mean that you have to agree with me or with Andy or with anybody that's sitting at this table, but I do believe that, one, when you hear truth, you can't unhear it. Obviously, I know I can't. I can deny the truth that I hear, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not truth, because truth remains consistent. And the other one is, if I truly don't believe something or I view it different than someone else, it's very important to understand that they have a perspective, let them speak, and then from there, if anything, you might change my mind. You might bring me just a little bit more closer to what you believe. But when it all comes down to it, the challenge is I'm going to say the challenge is worth the squeeze.
Let's play with that just a little bit as we get into this. Have some fun. So, if you come to me and tell me you're a kitty cat, how am I supposed to take that? Am I supposed to just start believing you? Is that a fact? Is that...
I would say that's subjective. So then we get into subjective and objective. Okay. Right? So if you tell me you're a kitty cat, then I can say, well, does Andy really believe that he's a kitty cat? And if he does believe he's a kitty cat, does him believing that he's a kitty cat affect my day-to-day life? That's the first and foremost thing. Now, when we get into the conversation of do we need to have a litter box in every bathroom and whether or not that does affect me,
there we go.
I don't want my 4-year-old going into the bathroom and playing with your poop that's in the kitty box that may or may not be covered up depending upon whether you're a good cat or a bad cat.
Okay, and this wasn't planned. That's why this is fun. So let's talk about if I think I'm a girl, maybe I do identify as a girl, and I like basketball. Am I able to be a girl?
In my opinion, I go back to the same...
this is where you lose me, bro.
Let's go back to the same thing, and here's where I'm at. I could say the same exact thing that I said before, so I'll say this, because I'm consistent when it comes to this. If Andy believes that he's a girl, then I will accept that Andy believes that he's a girl. Do I think that Andy is a girl? No, I think he's a man posing as a woman. I personally think there's some issues with that. But, I'm not going to be a dick about it, right? I'm going to let Andy believe that Andy is a girl, and that's fine. And does that affect my day-to-day life? That's the first question. No, because Andy can do what Andy wants to do. Now, when we get into the fact that whether you want to play basketball against my daughter, or you want to use the same restroom and showers as my daughter, or whatever the case may be, now you're starting to step on my toes.
So the truth that I'm a real boy does matter.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, absolutely. So there's a foundation for truth.
Right, but that comes back to that subjective and objective thinking.
Even in that situation,
I think for most people it doesn't.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the majority of people understand what we just did, and it's hard, right, when you're being sarcastic or you're playing around with these ideas. But we do know the majority of people don't think 90. I would say 85-90%, which it's wild that it's not 95% in my mind. But whatever, that biological dude should not play women's sports, right? And there's so many other things and issues that we debate today that are just mind-blowing, that we spend so much time in this little segment of it matters. We love people. You want everybody to feel self-worth and all these things. But there's some unhealth out there that's just at another level that I've been seeing, and
there's a lot of I got to say, Andy. I mean, and our algorithms are already tanked thanks to Andy, because what people don't realize,
but our local people, they're the ones that watch.
That's right, and so then coming, this becomes in my opinion, and I know I'm not making any friends here, okay, but if there's somebody that I know that has severe depression. Okay, I'm not going to go try to put them over the edge. If there's somebody that has a lot of phobias for whatever the reason and experiences that they might have faced in their life, I'm not going to try and tell them, well, if you're petrified of heights, I'm going to force you to go get on a plane and jump out of it with a parachute. I'm not into aggravating people's mental health issues. I want them to get help. And, there really was a time, and I don't know how it changed or whatever, but we're talking about mental health conditions, in my opinion, such as gender dysphoria and body dysmorphia. Okay, I have a difficult time saying that we as a society should dictate our norms based upon a very, very, very small percentage or minority of people in order to accommodate what I would consider a mental health issue.
So as we get into that,
try to be careful there. I try to be careful there.
You want to be respectful
because people want to split hairs and all that, and I'm sure we're going to get attacked over the deal.
I think it's silly, but at the end of the day, because things are what they are, right? And people men dress as women, women dress as men. Hey, do your thing, right? But at the end of the day, just don't affect my life. I like how you frame that. That's really good. So anyways, that comes all down to one place. But how about local politics, dude?
That is I'm glad you said something about that, because to be real honest, it's pissing me off. Because we're seeing the same cycle of bullshit over and over.
It's a little different, though.
Oh, no, it's getting really... this is the worst. I'll say this. The race between Avery Anderson and Michael Stavola for the 72nd House District in the state of Kansas is on par to be one that I believe will have the most campaign donations and funding through political action committees. This is a race... I don't even see this much propaganda ever. I've gotten probably 10 flyers at this point of time.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot too.
I've probably gotten
all one way
10 text messages. Oh yeah. And then the messaging is such that it's very questionable, because anybody with a critical thinking cap, if all, or any person that thinks about the second or third order of things, that doesn't just read it and say, well, this is what the flyer said, so I'm going to believe what the flyer says, instead of actually going, well, wait a second here. Something, is that true?
Well, it's interesting to me, right? I'm going to go back to the basics here. I've been around these political things for, 20 years or so now, and kind of watched and see people go through, and rule of thumb for at least the last 15 years, from my understanding, is when you have primaries, people stay out of them on a local level. We've actually been chastised for supporting people on nonpartisan races. Right. And then, we don't do this, we don't do that. Here are the rules. We don't support in primaries. We wait till after the community selects somebody, and then we get involved, especially like our larger GOP here locally, right? The leadership team, if you call it that. That is so insulated in my mind, right? That when you have active committee leadership members and positions that are appointed to people supporting a candidate in a primary when that is against the rules, per your rules, apparently, because apparently there were rules out there at the state level. And then it's like, well, no, that's just our person. Now it's like not a rule, because you just got to trust us on this one. That type of politicking, it's even worse than the messaging going back and forth. It's the other side of it, right? This we just want to feel important and say yes and no when we think it's needed because we're that awesome. I just think the arrogance and the ridiculousness of that just blows me away.
Yeah, it blows you away. It blows me away.
But hey, people have titles, right?
Well, and it's
I
one
guess
of those
that means
things
something these days.
That I ask the question because I like to get inside people's heads because I agree with you 100%, right? There is a very strong belief that what is good for me is not good for thee mentality in our community as it comes to politics, right? You're not allowed, okay, to support somebody in a primary. We need to, and we've heard this over and over and over and over and over again, right? There's rules. You're not allowed to support one candidate or another in a primary.
It's been an issue.
This has been an issue,
in the
right?
past. Yeah.
So much so to where this same group that is, quote unquote, as you say, in leadership, which I believe is a dwindling group of people, and they will do what the exact same thing they tell you not to do.
For sure.
At the same time that the hypocrisy is unbelievable. And I would say that's the common theme for all of this that's going on right now when it comes to any race.
Even when it comes to like supporting a certain person and wanting to show that person that your title means something. And so you're going to show them what you can do or how much power you have, right? Which is really nothing. But whatever. It's a
volunteer position.
I'm sorry, there's some super secret sauce behind the scenes that I don't know about, right?
Right.
Be careful.
A lot of coffee and brunch groups that you're just not a part of. That you don't want to be a part of, but hey, it is what it is. Not.
But I just think it's interesting to watch the hypocrisy, the dirty, the interesting maneuvering. The average person like me sits back and looks at this and goes, what a mess. It's just messy people doing messy things. And I know that's all of us in all areas to a certain point, but some of us at least try to pick up our poop. And we try not to walk in smelling like a piece of poop. Right. And you get some people that are so ideological and driven by ideology to a state of crazy. Like they literally look like they're off. Right. Their eyes, their affect, the way they present themselves, it's just it's like wow. And they don't see it. And they like gravitate and congregate with each other, and then they get these little weird thought processes and these things that they say. And you know what's really interesting is for me to see somebody carry a narrative into a community about another candidate, and then they play that out. So if this guy is not wanting to do these things, then they say, well, let's say this guy's not wanting to do these things. It's the Hillary Clinton move, but it's okay when a Republican does it. Right. And this is for both, all sides.
Because it's already Democrats that do it, right? There's the Democrats.
Only Democrats do it.
I was having a conversation with somebody early today.
Isn't that wild?
Right. It is wild. And you know, there's got to be a psychology behind it. I know I've said this on the program 1000%. Before of how does this, it almost makes me want to further my education in reference to this, right? Messaging and you know, I've honestly thought about pursuing a PhD program at the University of Kansas, which of course you can't do that because that's liberal, you know, and all this whatnot and everything else under the sun.
So get brainwashed.
I'll get brainwashed.
More than you already are.
But just wanting to study, and I suppose I could study with my current education to try to come up with a better understanding of why this is the way it is. So it is what it is. But this what is it? What is it in people's brain? What is the psychology behind this extreme hypocrisy, inability to see anything from anybody other's perspectives than your own, which then is not your own because it gets to a groupthink and it gets to silos, and it's like, it's okay. What goes back to that, this weird hypocrisy, you know, it's almost like a religion. It's like a bad Christian. I'll just say this. Okay, the bad Christian is somebody that says, well, I know I'm a sinner, but God doesn't look at my sin because I'm saved by the blood of the Lamb. But you sinner, you sinner, you. So don't look at me. Don't look at, I'm washed by the blood of the Lamb. But I can lie, I can gossip, I can defame, I can disgrace, I can be manipulative, I can be all of these things that Christianity teaches us not to be while invoking God and Jesus in my life. But you, by God, you're the bad guy.
I want to take a left on you.
Well, take a left.
I think what I'm seeing right now is, let's just use Christianity as the archetype, because we have a strong Christian man right now running and represents that every which way, except I guess he got caught with alcohol twice or something, and he needs to be in rehab.
Yeah, before he was saved by
crooked eye looking troll, right?
It's got a lot of mysterious.
Ed, that was for you, dude. You're a little weird, bro.
A lot of mystery around them on their
whatever,
own self,
right? It's weird, right?
It's weird.
There's some people just have weird vibes, and who cares, right? But I don't. I truly don't, because I just don't. I stay away from that stuff. At some point, I'm like, I see the utility in you at some point, but then you're probably more of a liability. But who knows? Nobody chooses to see the truth, right? Because we want to see what we want to see, and we want people to fall in line when we say fall in line. And some people are weak enough to take that position, right? So whatever. That's why I don't work in those kind of groups.
Yeah, you say anything other than, and we dictate what it is. So like the definition of conservatism.
But the problem I'm seeing here, before I lose this thought and go off on my rabbit trails like I do, circle back, come around the middle, is when you have people that are like, we need more God-fearing politicians, we need this, we need that, and then you get somebody in there that's standing on business, and they get chastised by the same people saying that they wish that was there, but then they're like, well, that's too Christian, so it's an act.
Right.
Wow.
Well, what it is they don't really want
my political ideology and what I chose to buy into and the commitments that I made to feel powerful for myself, like I actually make decisions for this little group. That really has no weight on any of the real stuff that happens, because we've had all kinds of people. Look at what happened with the school board election. Any conservative got blasted, right? I mean, city commission got blasted. Like, what the hell are you guys really doing? You just feel good about yourselves. We know this is what's going on. The majority of us, that's why there's nobody really wanting to get into that camp. But at the end of the day, this is the truth. You have a strong Christian dude, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. But at least he's standing on business. And some people I've heard is this guy personally is more conservative than the guy that they're saying is conservative, right? And so you have, which Avery and Stavola. So you have these things going on out there in this political sphere that we're watching right now. And I'm trying to stay out of it, right? Because I just came off a 6-year stint and it was ridiculous.
You're full of the dirty politics.
Oh man, people treat me different. You should see the way people look at me sometimes now. I used to shake everybody's hand and give hugs all over the place.
I mean, until you did something
Walmart
that they
people
didn't like.
would run across literally things and give me big bear hugs. The same types of people, some of them, half of them, now look at me and snarl. And I don't even know how I've changed, other than I just ran for a seat, and I wouldn't take it back because it taught me a lot, and I saw some things, and a great life experience. I'll never do it again. But
that was like an oxymoron. It was a great life experience, which would lead someone to believe that you would continue with the great life experience because it's a great life experience.
Sometimes you get your ass kicked and it teaches you something, but you don't want to get your ass kicked again. And not because you're scared of it. It's just because it's not worth my time.
It's a dirty soup.
For me personally, I just got other things and I'm not built for that. And I got, I took the life experience, another little nugget in my crazy world. I've been part of startups. I've been a part of launching companies that have done crazy things. I've been part of building cool stuff that I get to see all over the country when I fly around. I've been part of some of the best in business, in the world, literally. And so I have all these crazy experiences. And then I've been in politics in a way that I never had a want to do it. And I got to see this little piece of life with an experience that was just for me, It was bottled up just for me. And I had to give up a lot for that. So it was very humbling. But I learned a lot, and I learned about the process, and I learned how people are, and I learned how fake people can be. And I learned how real some people are on top of that, and how hard it is for the real ones to get anything done because of the ultra fake ones, right? And so we talk about ultra con or ultra dims, you talk about ultra fake, right? Ultra fake. And I see a lot of ultra fake. The majority of our systems are filled with ultra fake people. Not all of them, again. There's a good chunk of them that aren't, but most of them, a lot of them have no idea, no clue. They couldn't build their way out of their own paper sack, right? But yet they're making big decisions, and their lens is so small, and their viewpoints are so corrupt with their way of thinking. But it's always easy to justify, like I was getting back to this, we need Christian people, we need to bring back God into the schools, but then those same people will vote against it or not say anything to the people who do. When it's really time to meet the piper, or they want to be fiscally conservative unless they want to spend $2 million on a school that we can't have open because it's not fiscally. But then they want to say you're being financially irresponsible for doing. It's just it's what they want.
Yeah, and that goes back to
what you want soup.
Yeah, and that goes back to the idea that, well, what does being a conservative mean? The definition. That's changed. What does being a Republican mean? That's an evolving and revolving definition. What does being a Democrat mean? What issues does this is something that
it depends on what your group wants. What does your group want? Because the
Democrat of yesterday is now the moderate Republican. And the Republican is now an extreme Republican, so extreme that they're so far right they're left, and that people on the left are so far left they're right, and you can't even distinguish between the two. It's like I'm a conservative, so I believe in private property rights. But your private property rights in where I don't want you to have the right to do what you want to do.
Right, I think we get it, but knowing that you go to any country, you have to check in. They have to know you're there. You have to go through a process. You come to America, we want the same things. You're a right-wing extremist.
Correct.
I want reasonable border security, and I want to make sure we know who's in our country, and you want to vet people, and you want to make sure that you have strategies to bring people here that can make this country better. So we want to let in a certain type of individual so we can pour out into the rest of the world, because that's what I think we're tasked to do, because we're such an amazing country. I'm a right-wing extremist.
Well, okay, so, and I don't want to go off on a side, but I was thinking to myself, I thought just now, we want the best and the brightest from every country, right?
I would hope so.
But then we go back, and I in my own hypocrisy, this is the first thing that came up. I thought, bring me you're tired, you're poor, and you're hungry.
Yeah, but that was at a developing stage.
You catch what I'm saying?
And things change, right? And yes, that's true. That's real, and it happened. Right. And we had some hitters that came over here and helped build this amazing country.
Right.
But we're at a different place right now, and the threats are very different, and people are very different. And this was a place where you could come and have freedom of speech and build and
freedom
pioneer.
Of religion.
And live your dreams and chase it. And it was hard, and it was gritty, and it was tough, but you could claim stake on land and property. You could build things. Now it's gotten so contrived and complex, and tax systems and bleeding our money left and right, and how you have to be a smart business person to hide majority of what you make, because people are saying, oh, well, you just make all this money, you should pay more taxes. It's like, dude, we pay more taxes than everybody else. Right. And we're just trying not to pay as much as little as we can, because you guys are gouging us, and then they're throwing money away on things I don't agree with.
And then there's always these countries where these individuals could go if all of a sudden our tax structure gets to the point where, like what's happening with people leaving California.
Right.
Lots of businesses are just fleeing California and New York to go to Florida and Texas.
Yep.
And because the tax structure is different. So when you take each individual state, let's call it a country, and Texas is larger than the size of, many countries, right? So let's talk about an Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or any of these people that are these multi-millionaires, right? Billionaires. If you go in and you say, well, we're going to tax the shit out of you. Okay, and they decide, well, screw this, I'm out, I'm going to Uzbekistan, okay, and then the taxes that I pay in the United States would be like 40% of their gross domestic product, then they could pay half the taxes and and revolutionize a country. Okay, so just so we don't rest here and we move on into, like we were talking about,
Good
definitions and messaging and this smear campaign that we're seeing happen.
Isolated groups, silos.
Right, the whole
politics
thing.
at its finest.
Politics at its finest. I got to say, I'm just coming to the conclusion that the majority of people are just effing stupid.
No, I don't think that.
I'm
think,
sorry.
I think most people are smart. They just don't want to deal with this mucky stuff.
Agreed.
And they're living, most people,
when it comes to politics.
Call. I'll just give a little story. I got a call yesterday from a local politician, and I was pissed off. And I commented something, and they called and said, hey, I didn't hear what they said. I was working. I was literally working on a sign. I was very stressed out. It was a long day. This was like 7 o'clock in the evening or something. It was a day. Right. And I had been going since like 5:30, right? And I have multiple things I do, and I'm really focused in on one business in particular that I had to call them and say, hey guys, today I'm not going to be able to, unless we have a big emergency. I'm coming, but unless we have a big emergency, I'm going to need the day to not do anything for this business. And I still did some stuff right earlier in the morning, later in the evening, but not enough to call it like where I get an income coming from there. And I said, y'all need to put that back into the company, because I don't feel right at this point, because I'm not going to do enough. And I don't want to have that on my conscience while I'm working. I need to be 100% over here, right? And so we did that, sent them messages. They were all super cool, like they always are. Hey, do your thing, love you, whatever. Okay, great. So I'm moving. And so that guilt was off my shoulder, even though I still feel guilty because I want to be serving that business. And I get a call from a politician because I saw something in it. It was literally like, I think it took a shot at my pastor. So there's this right-wing political talk show host guy, ultra conservative, whatever, because he has the stick to tell who's really conservative and who's not, right?
Talking head,
right? And he doesn't know
political group
me from Adam, and I don't give a damn. But whatever, he's yabba dabba doing on his radio show, right? The
echo chamber of sorts.
Yep, walking around with the mallet, doing his thing, right? And probably getting funded by all these types of systems. And so whatever, right? That's the only thing keeping those things alive at this point, but whatever.
A dying breed.
And I said all that, and I'll say it again to anybody or to anybody's face, whatever, because I am who I am until you find out. You don't know, right? But somebody tried to put me in an interesting situation, and I don't know if they were trying to be tough with me at first, and my brain just says, let me give them a little bit of time to not be stupid because of how the first initial voice, the tone of it.
Like they're going to chastise you. Like,
and I had wind coming. So this was honestly saved their ass, to be frank with you, because I had things in my ear and the wind was going and I was like, huh? And they said something again and it sounded like a tough or whatever, kind of.
Right.
And I was kind of like, it's not registering to me because...
Like, you're going to be tough now, guy?
Yeah, no, but my subconscious was protecting both of us.
Right.
Because, I know where I'm at. You want to come and talk, we can talk.
120 pounds of you.
I don't know, whatever, right? Whatever. I mean, it's just,
Sorry,
I just don't live in that world, right? Because I respect people.
Right.
I really do. Even people that I disagree with, I'll respect you because I don't want to be disrespected because now we're going to have a problem.
Right.
Because I will not be disrespected by nobody ever. Done, right? And so I'm kind of like, and I'm not afraid of things and people at all, like zero. I don't care who you are, what your title is. I'll meet the president and be like, yeah, I like you 60% of the time.
Right. That's called honesty. Yeah.
I used to like you 95% of the time, you dumbass.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You ain't been working
but
for me.
You've been pissing me off with some of this stuff, right? But anyways, that's a whole nother story. But we had a conversation, but at the end of that conversation, what I thought, Lance, as a regular dude who's not in that stuff, who's trying to stay out of it, frankly, up until that point, up until I saw a message from this radio talk show guy. And so one of the candidates, Avery, put out this notice and kind of said, what this guy said is true. And I was like, but how is that the case? Because I know people have called me trying to see if I could get you to do a forum, and I won't call you because I'm not into that stuff and I don't have that pull. We don't have that kind of relationship.
Right.
And you weren't returning their messages. And then now you're saying that this guy won't show up somewhere. And this guy, I don't know who he is, but this forum's for our community and for other people in our county and people in places you represent. And I don't know if this Whitmer guy's a voter for him or not. Right. I know, but I'm being a smart ass because at the end of the day, it's like, who the hell is he he doesn't know my pastor. And they took a shot at so-called conservative pastors. And I'm like, you don't know my pastor from anything. You don't know how conservative that man is and how good he is.
Pastors.
Yeah, and that really pissed me off.
If you're a pastor and you're a Christian, and you're a Christian pastor, right, then you're a conservative, and that means that you should vote for Avery Anderson. And if you don't, then you're not a conservative Christian.
See, and this is the extremism, right? Yes. And let's just take it away from, because people are going to get mad who's saying my name. No, yeah, we are, because you're in the arena, right?
Yeah.
So sorry, but
we'll cry about it and then try to bully somebody.
It's exactly that play. It's like, you don't think we see what's happening?
Right.
Like, do you really think people are not that dumb?
No.
People are getting pissed off. Right. And I was trying not to get involved. Hell, I just chose my candidate 2 weeks ago, about a little less than 2 weeks ago, 100%.
Yeah.
But I was leaning a little bit one way over some time, and I was watching, and I wanted to see forums, and I was open with both of them about that. I talked to both of them, and I told both of them where I was, and I shared my number to both of them exactly where I was, even to the one that I wasn't, supposed to kiss their butts. Like, no, I'm not actually in your camp right now. I'm like 70-30.
Well, can I say something? And I know I'm going out here, Andy, and obviously this is not a reflection on Andy or anything, but I'm with you. You know, Avery Anderson, representative for the 72nd House District, had my vote. He had my vote until he didn't. When he went out and he started bashing a good human being that I was not completely 100% knowledgeable of where they stood. They might have been a little bit more liberal than me, and in fact found out that they're quite a bit more conservative than me. But somebody that is of value, a Christian man, a good man, somebody who is doing the best that they can to endeavor into this. And I decided I'll never vote for Avery ever again.
That's sad.
I don't care who it is. I don't care. It is. I have come to the point where I'm a never Avery. Okay, and I'll say this, right? And I'll say this. You know, if anybody that watches this program knows that I extended to our elected officials to have an update while they were in Topeka. It was well watched. It was just a one-way flow of information. I didn't give any opinion. It was not about me. It was about just giving them a platform to the local community to talk and talk about what's going on in Topeka, a legislative update.
So real quick, when you look at all of the medias for Harvey County Talk, all the different functions that you deploy on,
right,
our numbers at times are way better than those other outfits that are out there.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's a reference here. You might look on YouTube and only say, oh, there's only 50 people that watch that episode. Right, no. That's one little tiny piece.
Well, look at our Facebook numbers, and you know who the largest demographic of Facebook user is.
Right.
Your boomer. Right. So when you are talking
but what about TikTok?
Well, TikTok got good views on TikTok.
What about Shorts?
Shorts.
What about Instagram? What do we keep going?
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of spaces.
That's right, and we still have more we can embark on.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Right. So knowing this is
evolution.
I think what you're saying is that we're not just a no account nobody that's trying to get
people don't understand.
Okay. So with that being said, basically rolling out a red carpet. Here.
And we do have receipts.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to take a shot, come sit down with us. You pull out your numbers, we'll pull out ours,
Absolutely.
and let's have a good time.
Let's see what happens. Folks.
Hey, challenge is there. It's real.
Yeah.
Come bring it.
You want it? We got it.
We can reference it.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
we didn't just build this overnight, right? This has been a long, arduous, progressive process.
Just to save somebody's ass, I'm going to say this one more time.
Right.
If you're going to talk trash, be ready to bring your numbers to the table.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Have at it. Okay. And we're good. Okay. So then roll out the red carpet, right? And I do got to say the only one that took it up consistently and worked with whatever we could do was Senator Owens. He legitimately, genuinely wants to reach out to the community. One-way flow of information, two-way flow of information, opportunity to have a two-way that was a one-way, whatever the case may be.
Answer any question.
And I got to say this. Avery dipped on me, dude. Okay? We had, for a period of time, it was, we are going to do this at this segment, at this slot for this legislative update. The first time, couldn't even hardly get him to do it, all right, after agreeing to it. And then the second time, just ghosted, right? But that's synonymous with what this person does, coming into not wanting to debate anybody, not wanting to show up to any forums that are have an opportunity to do similar to what you're saying. But let's go here. This is some of the reasons why. Let's talk about messaging and interpretation of messaging and my belief that so many people are done, because I think they'll actually just believe this without ever thinking about it. But since I'm a Republican, I get all this trash and propaganda. And two of the most recent things that I think are just insane is Michael Stavola opposed President Trump's plan to close our southern border and supported amnesty for illegals. Maybe that's why he stayed home and didn't vote when Trump was on the ballot in 2024. Vote no on Michael Stavola in the Republican primary on or before August 4th.
Boy, they said he did what? Is that true?
Well, I don't really understand how he could oppose Trump's amnesty. Is he an elected official? No, I'll even say this. I know Michael and have asked him about this, and no, this is total BS.
So it's like a legit lie?
Well, I'm not sure exactly whether he voted in 2024 or not, or what the reasoning behind whether he did or he didn't.
Well, but the amnesty thing is,
Come on, Andy, right? Are you really asking me this question? What does Michael Stavola have to do with President Trump's amnesty bill?
But the hard,
what are you talking about?
There's people salivating over that right now. Right. You see how bad he is?
Oh, well, just call him a liberal. He's a liberal. He's more conservative than me. Am I a liberal now? I'm sure some would think that I'm a liberal, but I would also say that I think some conservatives who call themselves conservatives are a liberal, but really what it comes down to is just people that want to get government to dictate onto others what they want done. Forget a name, forget a this, it goes back to the property rights thing.
Well, I want to go back to this part.
It goes back to the faith-based thing.
Yeah, well, and also it goes back to most of us don't live in that echo chamber. And most of us know that is what we call white noise in the marketing world.
Right.
Like it's that paper that you walk by in the gas station. This is what this cheesy campaigning of the past is doing.
Right.
This tells you there's no innovation, there's no thinkers. You have a post that goes out and says this candidate is not doing A, B, C, D, and E, are not saying these things. And 9 hours before, that candidate posted a post that had all that to it.
Right.
They ain't even thinking. They ain't looking. They're just half. It's just how we're going to do it, and that's that.
No.
And it's so canned, and it's so ridiculous, and it's so it's just grimy, right?
It's grimy, slimy.
But at the end of the day, the majority of us, it's like we're going to the gas station and we're walking in to get that coffee every morning, 5 days a week, because that's our routine. And we pass that sign, that piece of paper that's been on the window, and it's 6 months expired, but it's still there.
Right.
This is what this is.
Right.
So you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in mailers. The boomers are eating it up and getting manipulated, some of them.
Right.
But even some of them, they're having their kids go, hey, dude, do you realize that he has nothing to do with this? Do you realize this has nothing to do with that? Do you realize this is talking points?
Right.
And they're going, oh, I'm starting to see that now.
Like, okay, here's the next one. Michael Stavola opposed President Trump's plan to close our southern border and supported amnesty for illegals. What? What? When did he vote to support amnesty for illegals? When was he openly opposed to Trump's border wall? When was he even openly opposed to Trump? Right? And then what's interesting is if you dig back through some of the archives, crazy. Okay, it's interesting because this is the propaganda coming out of the Avery campaign, who lost his shit when Kathy Valentine's campaign put out that Avery was not for Trump, because when somebody asked him a direct question that said, are you supporting Trump or not, he never answered it. He didn't say, yes, I'm supporting Trump. No, I'm supporting Trump.
He'll say yes now. I don't know about any of that.
Of course. I'm just saying, history is such that, and then crying about it, like literally crying about it, that, well, this is unfair that this person would say something about me like this. But yet you turn around and you do it 100-fold to somebody else. And it should be okay. It's hypocrisy at its best. Yeah. I mean, and we could go on and on and on with this messaging, which I call just straight up BS messaging. It's just BS messaging.
And I don't like it on both sides, to be frank, right? But those are the one representing us right now, I get to check that box, right? And I've checked Avery's box in the past. And well, we had a talk the other day, and I was shocked because what I got from that conversation was he was kind of talking to me and said, hey, we said to call each other. And I thought, okay, you know what? That's right, because somebody came to you with a lie. And that was the reference of this conversation. And I know the people that do it, it's the same people all the time, right? But of course, they're legit.
The crumpet group.
What did your friend call them the one
Coffee
time?
groups.
There was the Babbling Betties or something like that.
Babbling Betty group.
It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But anyways, and apparently I had made decisions already. And yeah, I was leaning one way. And I actually told both those, again, I told both the candidates where I was at that time. But I'm wanting things to come out. I want to see forums. I want to understand where this lies. I want to see how you manage your campaign. Those things could have gone so many different ways with just what I just said. How do you act and react to things? How do you carry yourself in certain situations? How do you choose to step in or out of leadership roles? And then, frankly, what have you been doing up to this point? Because I got to think through this and talk to some people about involvement. And where are you? Are you just in different pockets of people that I am? Because, I'm out there volunteering and doing things for a long time, right? And I see one of them out there somewhat. I've never volunteered with the other one,
right?
Unless I call them to do something,
and that
might try to help them with their profile.
Show up.
1,000%.
And I'll say this,
So this is the road that I was going down. Right? Is I realized on the phone listening to "I Need You to Be Afraid That This Guy's a Democrat," posing as a Republican, and I'm listening because I'm like, could that be true? But I'm like, wait a minute. Where's this coming from? Like, who's really believing any of this? It just hit me. Like, there's a group of people that are manifesting this within themselves to a level of fear and all these campaign type of movidas that are old school, right? It's just, this is what works.
That messaging.
And they're consistent and they're all saying the same things, and the secret society group all knows the secret society stuff. And I'm just not privy to know enough of it because I do this kind of stuff. Like, I just call bullshit where I see it. And that's not going to work well in that world, right? Well, for me, right? The way I just can't, I'll stay quiet most of the time unless you step on my toes, right? And then we're going to have a problem. But at the end of the day, I realized 95% of my friends don't care. They're looking at this the way I am. From a 30,000, I don't know what's being said on doorsteps. I don't know what you're saying over here other than what I'm seeing little blurps on social media, what a few people will send me on the snapshots here and there, random. But I'm moving and working just like I was working at that time. And I frankly don't have time for this conversation. Just like you don't have time for me when I send an email. It's just not, and you're right, this is not my world, and I don't want it to be, and I think that's 90% of us. The problem with that is that's how people continue to progress and grow, and they get involved with the system.
Embedded.
And then they play games in the system, and they make their little crews and their cliques, but you kind of have to do that if you want to be effective at some level, but some people have no clue to even how they're going to get there. They're just kind of living, and the title means something, and they have just enough to get by.
That's all they got.
And it's like, at the end of the day, I get it. I get all that. But I also understand that we need to do things differently. And most of us are seeing, I think, Lance, people aren't stupid. They're smart. They just don't want to deal with stupid. And they're like, I just don't want to be a part of your pony and dog show. I'm so sick and tired of it. And you know what? To the point where they don't go vote, so you have all the crazies that do go vote, and you end up with a bunch more crazy.
And maybe I should, I often say this, if you're somebody that likes football, then chances are you're going to surround yourself with other people that like football.
For sure.
But that's not the majority of people, right? But because of who you associate with, then you think that because 90% of people that you associate with, that 90% of people like football. No, it's just the people you associate with. So when I'm saying people are stupid, it probably comes down to watching the same cycle BS when it comes to politics, because, well, I've been in politics, i.e. policy making and government, and what it is that the legislature's doing in the state of Kansas, and what all these different
primary in general
are. Primaries, right? Yeah.
Most people don't understand the difference.
Right.
Most people don't even know that you have to be registered to vote for one or the other in a primary.
Right.
Most people don't know if you're an independent. I registered to vote 3 years ago. I voted twice. I'm just going to go show up on August, and go make my vote.
Realize, well, if you haven't voted
for
in so
this
many
person,
cycles, yeah,
and they don't understand all of these things and why somebody won't win, and you'll get the echo chamber sending out their stuff to win, is because most people won't show up to vote.
Right.
And they'll talk all the trash online, and they'll say all the stuff to their friends and text message, and they'll get on there and do all the stuff. But when it comes time to take a shit, they're not going to show up and sit on the toilet.
If they're even part of a district that they can vote for.
And they're not.
Most of them
aren't.
We talked about the Talking Head radio host program in the Wichita, right?
Yeah.
You I used to listen to
captain,
it. I turned it off because
that's the real one, though.
Well, yeah, right.
The only real one.
I mean, I've evolved, man. It's like I used to listen to it. I just can't listen. I mean, I turned it off. I don't know anybody that can choke that down. It's almost like
they're out there.
It's almost like choking down oatmeal that has no sugar, no fruit, or nothing. It's just like I'm trying.
With a certain group of couple few thousand.
Yeah.
Tell you what.
Well, as long as you keep to say whatever it is that you need to say to keep them all riled up,
It's the same echo chamber.
It's the same echo chamber. Okay, so then we get
makes the job easier to do that.
Right. Well, and something that I found too is we have a constitutional amendment. That was something else I want to talk about on the program today. I guess we could cap the last portion of this program before we move on to the next portion that kind of leads into the same mantra or the same common theme, and that's messaging.
Yeah.
Right? It's this messaging, it's this trash, it's this fear tactics, it's this fear mongering, and for whatever the reason, you have a large demographic of voters. I'm not talking trash on boomers, okay, here, but that is the largest block of voters that get out who are eligible registered voters to vote in both primaries and general election. And I think it has to do with services and entitlements and things like that. So for all these, small government individuals that are out here voting, so that way they don't get their entitlements taken away, just blows my mind. But hey, what's good for me is not good for the mentality. Still, with this messaging is garbage. And one thing that's coming up in Kansas is whether or not we will vote for a constitutional amendment to change the way that Supreme Court justices are installed in the state of Kansas. And I say installed because for people that don't know, that are on the fence, they're questioning stuff, what's the vote yes, what's the vote no? Okay, the constitutional amendment. A vote yes, very generally speaking, is to change the way we currently have our Supreme Court justices installed. And that is that there's a bar association. There are certain people that are appointed by the governor that sit on this committee, and there are certain people that are voted in through the bar association that are on this committee. They, when a vacant Supreme Court justice seat comes open, are there to appoint or to select 3 individuals that they want to or they feel should be on the Supreme Court. From there, then, it goes to the governor, and the governor gets to appoint one of the 3. Okay, it has not always been this way. In the past, okay, our Supreme Court justices were elected. A vote yes would mean that we would go from the current way that our Supreme Court justices are installed,
which we would all get a vote.
Yes. It would be a democratic process, if you want to call it that, where you would elect the Supreme Court justice. A vote no would mean yes, through the populace.
So then you get the same echo chambers doing the same things in the same areas and all that to get people to vote for one way or the other. But I think it's less isolated, right? So we were talking about this, and we differ on this one. And for me, when they changed it in the 60s, right, to what we have now, because it was being manipulated.
Correct.
then now we're getting manipulated in the other way because people figure it out, and then the cycles go and they have their meetings and they get creative and they're up there focusing on these things and how do we get what we need done and how can we better fit the system to meet our needs when we have to go get things done.
Correct.
And, you have some people who abuse these things over time, and it's been abused. I mean, there's legit information out there of how they're doing it. Just like, and I'll use this as an example for most of our viewers that aren't picking up what we're putting down. Trump was indicted in New York for a property that he had got a loan for in Florida.
Right.
And the judge just threw out a number. That's not even worth some of the mansions in that area, much less that property. Right? So I know a guy has a $22 million property out there, right? Not too far down there. His home is there, right? Like probably 4 minutes away. That property, Mar-a-Lago property, is easily in the hundreds of millions. Right? 18 million is what. And then that went through a process. The bankers came on and sat on and said, we had no problem. We got our money back. We made the loan. We have our own internal team that does their risk analysis and does their thing. And said they decided to lend them the money and they got their money back. Didn't matter. None of that mattered because the system is jacked up. And people can get put in positions, whether you like Trump or not. That was wrong. That was abuse of the system. So that is an example of what these things can get turned into. Right? When you get the Board of Education for the state of Kansas is how many Democrats, right? And it's changing, and the other side's starting to make their moves because they're pissed off at what's going on and they feel like they don't have a voice. And you get people that are angry that just start on a mission, and then they become obsessed and they start losing sight of the checks and balances that can get them there the right way because they start believing so deeply that they're protecting us against our own will. And we just don't know. We're the 5-year-old kid that's going to touch the hot iron, and we're just going to make sure we've put things in place so you don't do that, and you just need to trust me. But that's not the case in most of the points. It's their ideology that starts driving them. And when you have people making decisions like that, and they're just it becomes a belief, and it's so deep down in them that you can't reason with them. And it doesn't mean that they were bad people or they are bad people. It doesn't mean that they're doing bad things sometimes, and they're justifying it to get to the ends that they want to get to meet their goals, because they truly believe that it's better for everybody. And you just need to trust me and shut up.
Well, and I would say this, politicizing the judiciary is very dangerous. And if you go back to, and I'm not going to throw out quotes and names, but just look at what was being discussed around the judiciary and its role and how dangerous it would be for our country if it was politicized. And I'm not so sure that it's not already politicized. And it's basically, it's almost like a politicization upward, in my opinion, more than downward. And the reason why I say this is the Supreme Court, you got the same people on the U.S. Supreme Court, right? We'll just go to the U.S. Supreme Court, not just Kansas, but U.S. Supreme Court, because that's the one people watch, right? Landmark decision on 2A amendment, Second Amendment rights. States cannot restrict, I'm just throwing this out here, an individual's ability to carry, to protect themselves, or to have a firearm in their home to protect their home. Okay. Win for conservatism. When the same exact justices vote to not do away or find that Trump's executive order when it comes to amnesty for individuals that came here and somebody had a baby and then that's a U.S. citizen or whatever the case may be, well, they vote against what I think should be the case. They're all a bunch of liberals. They're all a bunch of this, it's like the Supreme Court is great and should be praised anytime they decide something or interpret law to be as I see it, but then they're the mean, dirty, bad, horrible because they interpreted something the way I don't like it. So now we need to change it.
But most people know, Lance, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, because if I know, I'm pretty average. Most people know. The Supreme Court in the United States is politicized. I mean, they try to put people of like-mindedness on that Supreme Court for certain issues.
Right.
And you can go through them and people say, oh, that one's a Republican, that one's more Democrat, and that one does sometimes vote here, but most of the time they're going to go over there. So for the majority of them, they do have a leaning.
Right.
And they do get appointed by people depending on who's sitting and who's bringing them in at the time,
yes.
this side or that side. And so that is a real thing. So if that's happening, you don't think it's happening in Kansas?
Okay, well, I will say this. Okay, so there's a rules to the game. Okay, if we got rules to the game.
But if the people are now voting... Yes, there's still going to be a lot of that, but isn't it harder to make all of us vote in somebody that we don't think is too much one way or the other?
I'm not 100% sure that voting for people are going to work. You know, you think about it like this. Let's say, okay, here's what happened. I mean, there was a couple decisions that were made by the Kansas Supreme Court that pissed the Republicans off. Let's just be real.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So then they decide, well, since we have a majority in the
this.
House and the Senate, we're going to change this. We're going to vote to get a constitutional amendment. Then we're going to let outside money pour in, do the whole political action committee, do the whole voting thing, get people out here, just like they did the value them both thing, or just like we're seeing what's going on here with the race for the 72nd House or the 74th or the 31st or whatever it is, whatever district, okay? So what happens if this whole plan backfires on Republicans, okay? We're going to go to elect Supreme Court justices and more money is spent, more propaganda is there, more everything is there, and then we wind up with 7 extreme liberal justices instead of conservative. So it's almost like, here's the rules to the game. That's what I always say, Andy. Okay, here's the rules to the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Okay, so I can sit here and say the same thing applies with what we're going on with the 72nd. I think it's ridiculous. I have a lot of criticism towards, okay, but they're just playing the game.
Yeah,
that's all they're doing. They're just playing the game.
Yeah.
So if we've got a situation here at the Supreme Court justices, right, then you know, there are ways to play this game. Like people say, we don't get a say, we don't get to vote on who's the Supreme Court justice. Well, that's bullshit, okay? Because every 4 years, you got the ability to vote not to retain. So even though a governor appoints that individual, we still have a say as voters not to retain a certain justice, right? And so then, guess how many justices have not been retained? 0. So that either says the voting populace is largely unconcerned with the decisions that the Supreme Court is making, or
well, most people go and when that's on the ballot, they don't even know.
Yeah,
they're just
right.
Yeah.
So you want to play this system? Here's how you play this system. All right, you guys want a way to win this system? Okay, Republicans, when you have a Republican governor, get out and vote not to retain justices. Win a not to retain this justice, and guess who appoints the new Supreme Court justice? Your Republican governor. Okay, so even then, I'll admit, I don't like the system the way that it is. I think it is a flawed system, all right? I do not like it. But then I look on the other hand, and I'm like, wow, look at all the problems that we're going to have when we go to this electing Supreme Court justices. So once again, I'm put into this, well, neither one of them is a good option because of all the unintended negative possible consequences that could come. I don't like what's going on here. I agree that, you know, this is kind of partisan. I don't like that. There's been some ways that I know that they've interpreted stuff. It's political. I don't want it to be political. But then all the things that I don't like about this is just going to be this with millions and millions and millions of dollars and other influence. Okay, so I've got to pick what's the lesser of two evils. In my opinion right now, the lesser of the two evils is to keep it the way that it is, send our legislature back and say, I don't like it the way that it is. So why don't we try to do this? If they were to have a constitutional amendment right now,
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Let me just interrupt real quick. I hear what you're saying. Well, here's the reality of the world we live in. Those are the two options we have right now. There's a lot of people that went through a lot of stuff to get those options to this point. And there's always red lines and massaging and negotiations and all that behind the scenes. But there's no way me and you here, and neither do I want to. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and I'm aware of a lot of it. I get it, right? Enough to go, okay, that's how it works. And this is my choices. And this is where we're at right now. Will people eventually game this system? Yes, I know that. Do I like everything about it? No. But do I like the majority of, do I dislike what's happening now enough to make that change now? And for me, it's yes, right? So we're different, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, and it makes it easier when you say, I'm going to put the power back in the people's hands, because that's what we want, at least until we don't.
Right.
Because again, it comes down to this thing of
whether it goes my way or not.
Yeah,
it could go against me, and then all of a sudden it's the mean, dirty Democrats, or it's the mean, rah, rah, rah Republicans.
And with a lot of the big voting blocks, and something like this comes from certain areas, and how are they going to chop all that up? And there's a lot of things there that still need to be, I think, in my mind's eye, ironed out. That they'll think through it, and smart people will do what they do. But at the end of the day, I can't control the system. I could just control the pieces that matter to me and the lifestyle that I live and the things I'm fighting for. And this is where I get caught in my own wind tunnel, right? At the end of the day, I have my goals. I know what I need to focus on. I don't worry about the rest. And it comes down to my family and securing them and making them have a good life. And do they have a platform in this country with what I'm doing every day? One, to educate them, but also to give them options, right? And that's my whole focus. The rest of it, and I think that's most Americans, the rest of it, unless you choose to get involved in politics, I think people have a lot of ideas of what they want to do until they get in it and they realize it's not what they thought. And I got that experience. That's why I'm so grateful for it, because now I know, no matter how cool you think you are, how humbling it is to realize that as great as we are, we have a lot of work that needs to be done. And going back and forth and changing the system, is it a 100-year solution? And my answer is no.
Yeah. Is it a 50? I mean, that's, and here's this. Okay. So I want to double down on something real quick, and then I want to offer an option here. Okay. So another issue that, man, if I could just try to sway you, Andy. I'm trying to sway you. I'm not trying. I'm just trying to double down on this. Okay.
That's good points.
But statistically, if you're a Republican in the state of Kansas, okay, statistically, and look this up, folks, we are not becoming more conservative. Okay. And if we've already determined through popular election that oftentimes we can get, if you're a Republican and you don't want a Democrat to be elected popularly to the governor, how many times has this happened? Right. And we take into consideration that younger people tend to be more liberal. So 10, 20 years from now, all right, I'm going to say this. I'm going to be prophetic about this, right? If everything stays consistent, I'm throwing out a prophecy here, okay? Everything stays consistent. We might see one, maybe two more Republican governors before it's just a Democrat governor through and through for years to come. We may see on the next couple election cycles Republicans get elected to the Senate, but the chances of that maintaining, I'm being prophetic here, statistically is not proven to be the case. So we're going to open up Pandora's box because we're in the majority right now. And then what's going to happen is that's going to come back and it's going to bite us in the ass. And in the end, somebody else is going to rue the day. That's my thought. Now, this is just my thought. Okay, that's my thought, uncontested here. But could we both agree that we don't like the system that is currently here? And if, let's say, the constitutional amendment was that there's still, everything stays the same, except for after the governor appoints, it needs to be ratified by 2/3 majority in the House and 2/3 majority in the Senate. Would you vote yes to that? To try to fix the problem that we currently see, or the problems that we currently see, while also giving a form of representation through our representative republic instead of a straight up Democratic vote?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at it. There's a lot of other angles too. So I would hate to just jump in without really looking deeper into a lot of other options, I'm sure, that were discussed. Again, I'm of the mindset of I like to throw darts at the board, but there's so much to making that dartboard and where all the numbers lie. And are you right-handed, left-handed? What kind of darts are you using? What's the tip? So much goes into these things, and there's so many hurdles that we never see because of the process, right? That I know enough to go, those are my options right now. I didn't spend the time to volunteer, to go up there and do all the things it takes to get those options to the table, to realize that I'm just going to, real quick with my pen, no more than them, because it's not my world. Right. I choose not to do that. Right. I just choose to take my options. Those are battles that I've chosen not to fight. You know, I'm not going to be a representative. I'm not going to be a senator. I'm not going to be a governor or mayor. I have no want to be a politician in any way, shape, or form in the state, in the city, in the county, in Washington. No diplomatic bullcrap. Nothing. Right. Zero interest. It's not my place in the world. I just want to go build businesses and help grow people and be the best leader I can be in the system that I create for myself in my own little ecosystem, and love the people that are closest to me and provide for them, and hopefully allow them to provide for me, and be thankful for what I do have and the things I do. And so I'm such a small-minded American that when those things come to me, it's like, do you want green beans or cauliflower? I'll take green beans.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
You know, and some people are going to take cauliflower. At least I got a choice.
Right. Okay. So and that's, I mean,
that's
very well. And, you know, I hate to say that we do live in a system, in a society where you only get two options. And I ask the question with my inquisitive mind, why is green beans and cauliflower the only option?
Yeah.
Why can't
what
I
if
have
it
corn?
was,
why can't I have carrots? Why can't I have mixed vegetables?
Yeah. What if it's, what's this cackling gal, Kamala or Biden? Because this is where we're at.
Yes.
In so many things.
In so many ways. And I think the system is on the verge of collapse.
I hope not. I'm pretty positive.
Well,
so you said something earlier,
system,
though.
I guess it's to not leave it up to how you would interpret what I'm saying as the system, what the system is, and how a collapse would see. But what I'm saying is, I think we are on the verge of changing some things revolutionary over the next 20
I believe in our
30
kids.
years.
You said, you know, those kids are less
People
conservative.
are tired of the two-party
I don't know,
system.
man. My kids are pretty, and their friends, a lot of their friends, and yeah, they do kid stuff and act a butthead sometimes and all that. But this generation, you know, Charlie Kirk was a special person, and I believe he would have been a president. I believe they got him before that happened, because he was exactly what we needed, in my opinion, for a lot of reasons. And that was kind of like the Ronald Reagan of our time would have been for my kids. Would have had a leader like that, right? Yep. So my kids and the friends that they bring over here are so amazing. These young dudes that I get to read, and these young gals, and their intellect, and they love Jesus, and my son is not really thinking about going and hanging out and drinking beer like we did in our generation at that age, and they're just so different in that way.
Well,
and
propaganda's wore off.
Well, and they get it. Yeah. They see media for what it is. They make fun of things. Like, if you hear some of the jokes my kids say about certain things that would be politically incorrect in the world, them and their friends are just making fun of it.
Right. They see it.
They see it
where
big
we were,
time.
And I say that as a hope.
Well, we were kind of shocked.
Well, what happens was we were
still shocked. Actually, in some of it.
Okay, and I
saw some people barking at each other at some forum where they had like 30 people in their animal costumes, and they were like interacting with each other and smelling each other and rear ends and stuff, and like it was an exercise, and they were serious.
Right.
And I'm like shocked.
Right.
And my kids, they'll go off.
Right.
They're not even, they're like, oh my, and they start doing their thing. But I'm like, I have so much hope that they're kind of like maybe more like our great grandparents. Right. They're tough in their own way. They do have a good work ethic. I think it's the leader. If we say this person doesn't have this, well, how are you leading them to do that? How are you just not telling them what they need to be doing and inspiring them on what they should be doing for themselves? Right. Because we're in a real, let me tell you, society, not a, hey, let's work together society. Right. How can I get you where you want to go?
Yes.
Not, I want you to go here.
Right.
Our kids, and my kids will be equipped, right? Because I want to lead them in a way that empowers them, not myself. And I think more and more people are getting that. We're starting to realize, like, the reason they're acting an ass is because we're not giving them direction or giving them purpose.
Right.
We're allowing, and then we want them to be babysitted by these machines, but the kids are even starting to get that. Right. And they're putting them things down and getting books and doing things differently. This new generation is something else. Yeah. And I believe they're going to save our country. And I'm banking on it, man. I
hope they change it in a way that it can be sustainable, because I don't believe the way that it is right now is sustainable.
Our debt is crazy, dude.
Right. Okay, so coming into the program, just real brief, you had alluded to the fact that you are not voting for, you're voting you're voting yes for the constitutional amendment to elect our Supreme Court justices.
Yep.
I said I'm voting no. So just a real 30-second clip. What are you voting, Andy, and why are you voting that way?
I know it needs to change, right? And I know people manipulate things when they're the same way long enough. So I take it back to like when you put a sales thing out for your company and your people, they're going to find a way to manipulate it eventually. And you're going to have your actors that are in there that are going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to make it a norm eventually. And you just have to switch it up. You got to change the game.
Right. Okay. I'm voting no. And the reason I'm voting no is, once again, I'll go back to it. The simplest way I can explain it is I don't like the way the system currently is, and I do think that it needs changed or tweaked a little bit. But I think the alternative would bring about more corruption, and that the influence of outsider money and money going into these elections would only provide for a future where our Supreme Court became even more partisan based upon money than what it is today. Final words, Andy.
Man, we unpacked a lot today, and there'll be people upset and some people happy, whatever, right? It's what we do, which is our opinions and our opinions only, and we get a lot of eyeballs, and there's people that I get messages from that listen to us on their way to work in Wichita, there and back, and while they're cooking dinner, and the numbers are starting to reflect the actual penetration on some of our episodes more than others, right? But it's also the pieces that lead them to other pieces of information, and we get to see how long they're clicking and where they're at and and it's starting to spider out pretty awesome. So thank you, Lance, for giving people an opportunity to hear something different. Right. And it takes a lot of work to get where you've brought this thing. So, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of it and another voice and kind of talking about some of my crazy, because I guess it's resonating with people. I get stopped at the Y just the other day on somebody, and I didn't even know half of what they were talking about. And I realized they were listening to us here.
Right.
And I was like, wow, they were listening to us and they were agreeing with some of the things I was saying, to the point of they felt compelled, somebody didn't know, to come across and just start talking to me about our podcast.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's nice.
It's cool.
That's nice.
So the what I'm going to end with here is thank you. What we say, we say. It's not personal. People won't take it that way. Whatever, we get it. Right. And I have my small group of people that I check in with. Everybody else, hey, love you, dude, but if you don't like me, whatever, pay my bills, not even a little bit, right? So you shouldn't either, frankly, but if you do, that's on you, because nobody rents space in my head except for the people that I give keys to, and very few people have keys. But at the end of the day, I look at Massey and what happened there, right? And this was one of my favorite politicians, right? And people want to hit him when there's time to hit him, with the campaigns that they hit him with. But this guy was like focused on the debt, bringing down the debt, all the crazy, he was on point for what he wasn't my guy, couldn't, but he was representing, I couldn't vote for him and all that, but he was representing what I want to see in somebody representing me. Right. And so proud of that. And to see what the establishment did to him and how quick people were to turn on him. For those people in politics, stay who you are. Represent yourself for who you really are. Don't be fake. Don't be a Johnny-come-lately. Be consistent. Serve your community. And I think all the rest of that stuff will take care of itself over time. Just remember that that's how fake politics is. Somebody like Massey, who was a sweetheart of the conservative party, have the guys like this radio talk show jack off that said something about my pastor, right? That was signed off on by a local person who knows this person, I think. Really pissed me off. But just remember, though, how fake that is, that the people like that will turn on you on a dime when the situations change, or the monies change, or the motivation change, or someone makes you feel special. So now you're going to ride this all the way over the cliff because you want to show them somebody. Right. It's just so ridiculous. So just be careful and know how fake it is, and please try not to be fake when you're in the game. Right. And I'll throw this. You're welcome, Andy. Thank you for also encouraging me and mentoring me in a way that I think was paramount in me choosing to step out,
learn this process of podcasting, everything that we do. It's something that, you know, I have to give a kudos back to you. Just thank you for that support. Thank you for watching me grow. Thank you for getting me, you know, down that road and just encouraging me. And there was other people along the way, but I appreciate that partnership with you and that brotherhood that we have. Honestly, absolutely. I will say this in reference to that is because I'm the individual that does almost all of this, right? Anything I say, it's not a paid for. It's not a paid for. I'm not a paid for and bought and voice. I never will be. And 85 to 90% of the trash that you listen to in these echo chambers are a bought and paid for voice. Always remember that, folks. Always remember that. And then my final word, if I'm going to leave you here today, is remember this saying. Remember this saying, folks. Power corrupts. Absolute power absolutely corrupts. Have a good one, everybody.
I was going to say, if I buy you lunch, would you vote yes?